In 1955, there was a teenager called Emmett Lewis Till. Emmett Till had a voice impediment and had to make a whistling sound to get his voice working properly. One day Emmett was trying to talk to a woman and he made the whistling sound, and the woman's husband thought he was whistling at her, so he shot Emmett Till and killed him. A white man shot a 14-year-old black person just for whistling. This story made the news and made people angry at how black people were treated. Later on in the 50s, a black woman called Rosa Parks was heading home from work in the bus when the bus driver told her to take a seat further back in the bus. She refused. She only got up when the police came and arrested her for sitting in the wrong seat. This also raised awareness of the cruelty to black people, and some people decided to do something about it. They formed a movement called the Civil Rights Movement, which was about campaigning against racial inequality. Some people, including an activist called Malcolm X, wanted to fight violence with violence, but most wanted a peaceful approach. For instance, Dr. Martin Luther King, who was inspired by a man called Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi lived in India when it was under the British rule. He led peaceful protests against the British when it did not want any violence. Eventually, the British became too afraid and left India. King was influenced by him because he didn't want any violence either, and Gandhi's protests held the answer to how to protest peacefully. King led a peaceful march on Washington, and on the Lincoln Memorial he gave a famous speech that influenced many more people. This was the I Have a Dream speech, which was very moving and still inspires people to this day. After his speech, Shortly after his speech, King was shot because many people who were fighting against the protests were afraid of what might happen, and they blamed him. Nevertheless, after his death, others continued to fight in the campaign against racial inequality. A lot of progress has been made since it started. Black people can now go to the same schools as white people, and there are no longer black and white sections on a bus. But there is still much more work to be done. Black people are still mistreated all over the world. Even today there is still inequality. We can take an example from a black man called George Floyd. He was thought to have done something wrong, but when the police caught him, they pinned him down by kneeling on him. One of the police was kneeling on his neck, and he pushed so hard that it interrupted the blood flow to his brain and suffocated him, killing him. This has caused more protests and started the Black Lives Matter movement. This time people are joining in around the world, and governments want to do something as well. Hopefully this movement will work.